Hi, I'm Rodi Srivastava,
I'm Anuradha Nagraj.
and this is The Migration Story.
Is it possible that the number of voters deleted in Bihar under the ongoing special intensive revision exercise shifted results for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections in the state? In Shivahar, 1,09,723 voters have been removed between 2024 Lok Sabha elections and 1st August when the SIR roll was published.
The Migration Story had planned a two-part series on the SIR drive. One was done by Umesh from Bihar and the other was done by me from Delhi. Almost uniform across it was the fact that absolutely nobody had an idea that this was going on.
One fine morning, we just came to know that SIR is happening in Bihar. There were no prior information. People had no idea. In the villages, they were in a clueless what is happening.
One reason for reluctance is that there is increased cyber fraud that's happening. People are saying that आप फोन कर रहे हैं इसका आप हमको कैसे पता कि आप कौन हैं आप हमसे पैसा ले लेंगे.
This migrant worker were not aware about it. This is ironical that election commission is floating an advertisement in the Bihar newspaper. Then how this migrant worker will read? How this migrant worker will know that election commission is doing this thing? And they have no idea this online thing.
In a significant ruling that can impact millions of voters, India's apex court has agreed with the Election Commission that an Aadhaar card alone cannot prove citizenship.
The Supreme Court bench said that Section 9 of the Aadhaar Act makes it clear that Aadhaar is not a conclusive proof of citizenship and that it must be verified further using other documents. As of June 2020,
35% of the surveyed workers said that they did not have a single, even one of the 11 listed SIR documents.
Thank you to both of you, Umesh and Rajendran, for joining in. The three of us are here because in the last 1 month, all of us have in one way or the other worked on the ongoing SIR or the Special Intensive Revision drive in Bihar and on the impact that it could have on low-income migrant workers. Let us begin with you, Umesh. Umesh, you've been a journalist based out of Patna in Bihar for a long time now. Tell us about the story that you did for us recently and maybe for our readers, begin a bit with what the SIR drive is and, how did the story come to you and eventually materialize?
Bihar is one of the states where this outmigration is very huge. Almost, if we talk in context with latest data or research, then the researchers are saying that at least one person from every household migrate to other states for work, mostly works. So when this SIR came, I also realized that there must be a huge migrant workers who are staying in other states. So then there every state, every district you will find migrant workers. So then I chose Nalanda, which is a home district of Nitish Kumar, who is heading the state for last 2 decades. So I thought visiting this district, and I went to a couple of villages where I found a huge migration. There were only women in the house, old women, children, and these young people were out. So I talked to at least 4 to 5 families. They told me that their family members are out of state and they cannot come because, going there is a huge, it needs much money. 2,500 or 3,000, 4,000 money. So how will they spend? They just went to there and they have to come again and they will again go to other states. So there is a matter of this, if the company give them leave or not. So most migrant workers told me that, their family members told me that they are not coming. So either they will escape or someone else will fill their forms in their behalf. Right. So then I did this story and I visited then Maner, which is just very near to Patna. So there is a locality where most of the people from there migrate to Gulf countries. They are Muslims. And then I contacted to Supal, where I find this family members are staying in Gulf countries. So they all told me that they are not going to come. And then their forms will be submitted by someone else, or this BLO will fill up their form, or their family members will fill up their forms. So that was the ground situation, and a few workers do came, but they had to spend much money. This Mukesh Paswan, this character, which was our central character in the story, he has spent 5,000 for just coming. And now when I just tried to find out where he is, so he has just migrated again.
Right. He has
But
gone
luckily,
back.
yes. So luckily his name has appeared. So now he is a bit relieved.
Oh, you
So,
checked with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is how this story came to me. And then when the story published, many people called me, and many people just asked for contact details of these workers whom I have quoted in the story. They wanted to do a follow-up story on that. So that is how this story came out.
The Migration Story had planned a 2-part series on the SIR drive. One was done by Umesh from Bihar, and the other was done by me from Delhi. We wanted to capture the source destination kind of outlook, and I had visited quite a few labor chowks in East Delhi and a couple of homeless shelters in South Delhi to figure out what was the response of migrants. And interesting anecdote from there was that I had been already reading quite a bit about how people don't know about this, and I knew that this was going to be a challenge once you go to a place like a labor chowk where there are a lot of workers looking for work early morning. They have no time to speak to you and things like that. So I took a copy of a Hindi newspaper with me, which had a a really long 2 sentence headline on what the exclusions were like, and that was the only way I could get their attention and speak to them and what they thought. And almost uniform across it was the fact that nobody knew. And I went in the second week of July, so we were already like 1/3 into the enumeration phase, and absolutely nobody had an idea that this was going on. Interestingly, a couple of people who did have an idea that the drive was going on were not migrants from Bihar. So they were migrants from either UP, and they all had this question that, okay, this is happening now in Bihar, which I think, I only kind of put my attention there after these workers spoke to me, and they said that, अच्छा अभी तो ये वहाँ हो रहा है, but जब ये यूपी में होगा तब हम क्या करेंगे? Because problem is that once you say that this is going to be a pan-India exercise, it's not going to be limited to one state, and almost every kind of high out migration state will have to deal with this. Umesh, did you feel or in your experience, did you feel a lot of migrant workers telling you in Bihar that there is a structural problem in an approach like this? As people who have some connection to Bihar, have worked in Bihar, or are from there, we always feel that it is natural, probably for policymakers, to think that this is one of the highest states that sends low-income migrants outside. So this is kind of a basic approach that the policymakers should have had. Did you see or come across, voters, workers, or even experts who told you that there is a structural problem when you have an approach like this?
Yeah, definitely. So you told just that this migrant worker had no knowledge of this SIR. Even in Bihar, when I went to villages, the people have no idea about it. Most of the people had no idea about it. And when I informed them that they need one of the 11 documents, they were just carefree. They were sure that this Aadhaar card will work everywhere. So they were saying, no, I don't need to worry. I have Aadhaar card, that will work. So this information or this campaign, whatever campaign this election commission initiated, never reached to the people. And that is why they were, this migrant worker were not aware about it. And this is this is ironical that election commission is floating advertisement in the Bihar newspaper. Then how this migrant worker will read? How this migrant worker will know that election commission is doing this thing? And they have no idea this online thing. Or if they have online thing, they are not that much educated to go through this online process. This is a very difficult process. It takes time. So I think this is a very, this administrative approach is always, not pro-poor. I mean, those who are not well educated, who are not educated. So this whole process is like, these poor people will get excluded, and they never think about them. One fine morning, we just came to know that SIR is happening in Bihar.
Yeah.
There were nothing, no prior information. People had no idea. In the villages, they were in a clueless what is happening.
Any anecdote, Umesh, that you remember? Any kind of, interaction that stood out for you in one of the families if they spoke to you? I remember you spoke to a mother who was talking about how her son migrates. So any of those anecdotes that stands out for you?
So there are many. This village that I visited for my story. So there, women were sitting in front of their houses, and when I went there, they thought that I am some government official, and I have come for some this government scheme. So just all women just came to me to just
perils of reporting on an issue like this.
So they just came to me and just said, sir, please write down my name also. So I told them that I have come for this work, and I just want to know how you people are, filling up the form and other things. So that was the case. And this old woman, so they had just kept this Aadhaar card and voter card of her son and daughter-in-laws in a plastic bag and just put it out, and they said, will this not work? They should work. So there were no idea. It was very pathetic situation. And this Maner village, I went to this Maner village, and there are many people who were not aware about what kind of documents they need, and they were just they were just confident that Aadhaar will work. And this was a very pathetic situation. And another thing that made the whole things worst is BLO. BLO just asked them to just submit their form. They did not ask for other documents. So that also, gave them confidence, these workers, that, oh, okay. So if BLO is not asking for documents, then we don't need to give any document. Now they will have to give the documents. So again, they have to, go through this whole sarkari process to get the documents. So now they will have to run to office.
Right.
So these were the things on the ground. I mean, it's a very pathetic situation that I just witnessed.
I want you, Rajendran, to step in here. You founded SWAN, which is the Standard Workers Action Network. And as an academic, you've been working on the issue of migration and migrant workers for a long time now. SWAN recently did a survey. If you can talk a bit about that and also tell our listeners a bit about the findings of the survey.
When it comes to SIR per se, what we found is out of a total of 219 respondents, 68% did not have the correct information on what documents are needed for SIR. Out of a total of 248 respondents who are not in Bihar at the time of the survey, 75% had not even heard of the online portal to submit the enumeration form. And only 2 people had actually submitted this form online. Now, another interesting thing is, out of those people who said that some official had visited their house, 45% said that they collected the form, the enumeration form, along with either Aadhaar card or voter ID. Now, both Aadhaar and voter ID, existing voter ID, are not one of the 11 mandated documents of SIR. And another very compelling number, which I feel, is that 35% of the surveyed workers said that they did not have a single, even one of the 11 listed SIR documents. So these are some compelling numbers.
Rajendran, SWAN has done quite a few surveys in much more difficult times during the COVID pandemic. I remember about how the workers were traveling, how were they reaching home, what was the access to social security services and things like that. I mean, these are slightly better times in terms of compared to the pandemic. But I wanted to bring you in and ask that, what is the challenge of doing a survey like this, or to simply connect with a population that is so mobile?
It's very challenging. One is when you're in the time of distress, when we were interacting with the migrant workers, there was a survival need. So the immediate need was, okay, I need money to eat, I need money to live. So the nature of engagement interaction is very different. Now here, it's after 5 years, we are talking to the same set of people. One is, there is a reluctance, because one reason for reluctance is that there is increased cyber fraud that's happening. People are saying that आप फोन कर रहे हैं, इसका आप हमको कैसे पता कि आप कौन हैं, आप हमसे पैसा ले लेंगे. So there is that fear
That's
also.
a great point, right?
And there is that fear of cyber fraud. So even if there are well-meaning people reaching out to help, saying that we'll help you maybe tell you how to use the ECI app, there is reluctance because there is apprehension. That is one. Second is that since many of them have not heard of SIR, it becomes very difficult to even communicate what this process is. That okay, now the election commission has come up with these 11 documents, and even communicating what those 11 documents are. Now you are talking to a person who is working as a working on a piece rate basis in a cloth factory in Tirupur in Tamil Nadu.
Right.
And you're trying to tell that migrant worker that, oh, do you have a domicile certificate, resident certificate? Saying, what is that? I don't have that. So even the question of translating the document, whatever is the 11 specified documents, that you're communicating that, why do I need a domicile certificate? That's one. And what is that? Second is matriculation. So there is, हम कहाँ से metric? हम तो class 9 तक पढ़े हैं. हम कहाँ से metric का certificate लाएंगे? So that's a genuine question.
True.
Now, most people do not have these kinds. So even communicating that these are the 11 listed documents is a challenge to a bunch of migrant workers. I also tried conducting this survey in person in a couple of labor clusters in Bangalore because I had the questionnaire. So I thought, why not just go? So I took my cycle and went to a few labor chowks in Bangalore, and some of them I was able to talk to them. But when it came to doing a survey, when many of them were very hesitant that, oh, you're going to take our details. The moment you ask their documentation details, there is a fear. So people are not going to be so forthcoming in disclosing, oh, I have a caste certificate or I have a Aadhaar card. So there is that fear that, who are you? Why are you asking these kind of questions? Am I going to be deported? So that fear of deportation is also very real. And naturally, in the labor clusters that I went to, the poorer Hindu migrant workers were less afraid of deportation, but they were still afraid of cyber fraud, but they were still afraid of parting with knowledge of any documents. Even if I tried to say that, okay, look, I'll show you where the ECI app is, you can file it online. The basic element of trust in our society is so low, and understandably, because the government is constantly trying to create barriers as opposed to being inclusive. So the element of trust is so weak that it was difficult to communicate that. So these kind of challenges are playing out even when you're doing a survey of this sort. So that's why the response rates are 24% out of 1,411 calls. And also another thing which is very common is some numbers are not reachable because people, migrant workers especially,
routinely change
their phone numbers. So SIM cards are changing. So these are some very common challenges that we encountered during this survey.
A bottle of water or a packet of chips may be a small deal for you and me, but for the planet, it has become a deadly problem. So much so that a study has gone on to say that plastic pollution has crossed planetary boundaries, the safe space for humanity. The irony is, this small bottle made of PET plastic also brings an income for the waste pickers, the crucial actors who do the ground job of keeping our cities clean. Hi, I'm Ravleen Kaur. I'm here in Geneva, Switzerland, where 3,700 delegates from 184 countries have come together to deal with the menace of plastic pollution.
Watch the video story only on themigrationstory.com.
So for my story, I had spoken to a couple of experts, and I had also spoken to Jagdeep Chokar, whose ADR is one of the main, appellants against the drive in the Supreme Court. And he made this very interesting point. He said that, it is the kind of disenfranchisement that we could eventually be looking at is much more in terms of people just not finding out that their names are not there. So Umesh will be better placed to speak on this. I've been reading about how the Bihar CEO, which is the Chief Electoral Office, has been saying again and again that, if you are excluded, you should come to us and tell us that you're excluded. But Umesh, do you think that, in all this technicality, there could be a very large group who still today, we are at the end of the first week of August, would have had no clue that they are excluded. Do you think, in terms of what is happening in Bihar right now, how do you think that will play out?
See, I mean, those who have migrated already, I mean, with family, they are clueless. Those who are in Bihar, they are staying in Bihar at their places. So now this BLO has responsibility. Now, unofficially, I talked to some officials, select commissions officials. Then they said that we have put BLOs on duty that they will collect, documents relevant for their, to get their name in voter list. I mean, if their names are in voter list, then they will have to also give the documents, one of the 11 documents. And during this SR process, what happened? This BLO collected just a form, not any document. So at least I think mostly maximum 10% forms have been submitted with documents.
Right.
90% forms were submitted just forms, no other documents. That one of the 11 documents. So now they all need to submit documents. Right. And now this BLO has responsibility that you will have to find out those person and you will have to extract documents from them and submit online. So those who are staying in Bihar or at their place in their villages, they have to some extent got the information that if their names are in the list or not.
Basically, those
Right.
people who
Yes.
continue to have a strong relationship
Yes,
in terms of either
right.
family or political, right?
Yes. And this BLO is known to them. So they are contacting with them. But those who have migrated with family and those who have no idea. Suppose that when I went to this village in this Hilsa block,
Right.
there were many families who had migrated to Brick Lane in the other district of Bihar, like Madhubani or other district. Now, maybe their name have appeared in the list because this BLO had responsibility that whatever voters are there in your booth, we need all this form of all the voters. So what BLO did, that BLO himself filled the forms and just put it online. So now their names have appeared, but this family have no idea that our names have appeared in the voter list. And now the next challenge is how BLO will get documents from them because they are not there. So there is a chance of getting many people's name get excluded from voter list. Currently, this election commission has published data of this the deaths person who have died or who have shifted permanently,
Right.
whose name had appeared in two voter list, like same district. So
Duplication, right.
they were excluded. But we don't know this how many are people are. I mean, when this documentation process will end, there must be many other voters whose name will get excluded because BLO will not get documents. Those families who have migrated with family and they have no idea, they are not planning to come this month or maybe for next 2-3 months.
Right.
So this will be a problem for them.
So basically, what you're saying is the more challenging part is now.
Yeah, now, because this documentation, like how this BLO will get documents from them, and if they don't have documents, like this, they had asked for metric certificate, and this data says, this latest data, this says only 14.7% of the total population of Bihar had matriculation. Only 4.7%. Now, what will happen with this 90% people who are not matriculated? So how will they get documents? Now, this another fear this Rajendran was putting, that this people had fear that they will, take out money from my account. They are scammers. Now, when I talked to few Adivasi areas, people were, very fair in sharing their land documents.
Right.
They were fearing that if they will share their land documents, they will snatch their land.
Right.
So they were not sharing their account details because they were in fear that this money will go out.
If I may just add to what Umesh said, this is again based on two things I'm saying. One is some of the voter registration work that I did in Bihar last year, and also the larger social security related work that I do in Bihar, Jharkhand, and I've done over the years in many parts of rural India. Two things. One is the filing an appeal is a sign of privilege. Only those with access to power or those who have that sense of authority that I can walk into a government office will be able to file any kind of an appeal.
Cannot agree more.
Yeah,
absolutely.
majority of the poor the sense of going to a government office is also a site of where you get things done, but it's also a site of extreme fear. So the moment you say appeal, many of them will not. And last year it was very evident that when we were doing this voter registration drives, when we filled out the form 6, which is required for voter registration, all the documentations, all the age proof, ID proof, etc. was done. And then the election officer had excluded certain names. And they said that we have sent an SMS to those numbers to come for verification to the office. Most people, A, did not get any SMSs. Second, many people said even if we did get an SMS, we would not go because out of fear. What does this verification mean? पता नहीं क्या होगा हमारे साथ, तो verification हम सत्यापन के लिए नहीं जाएंगे, हमको डर है. So this is at the heart. So even if the election commission says that, oh, we'll put out a draft list, people can come and appeal, I think the default is not to go. So I think that recognition is important, that the intent, whatever the intent is, the fear, we need to address that fear and apprehension. And that seems to be completely missing in this entire exercise of SIR, where it almost seems as if the default is exclusion, whereas the default should be inclusion. And this is a fundamental inversion of how the election commission operated, let's say in the 1950s when it started. The fact that there were election symbols everywhere, the whole idea was how do we get more people enrolled? But right now we have just gone the opposite. We are saying how do we get more people exrolled, if there is a word, we need to create that word to go out of this enrollment drive. So yeah.
When I did field visits, some people, they had no documents. And when I told them that if you have no document, then your name will be excluded from voter list. Then he said, okay, let us happen. Yeah. What will happen? Government giving nothing to me. And if I am voting and I am getting nothing, then I will not vote and get nothing. So what will happen? So this was also this attitude within this migrant worker. Mostly they are poor and from backward communities. So this attitude also I find very common. Commonly people would say that, okay, let us delete my name.
And concerning, if I can say that, when a citizen is not has given up on.
Yes, definitely. And then this one thing that he mentioned, and I also found that there is a fear among people, especially from these Dalits, to visit government offices.
I also want to ask, either if you would like to step in and, share your thoughts on this, that, like I said, this is now no longer limited to Bihar. There's been some reporting on how some of the other states like Delhi, West Bengal, are putting up the older drafts on their websites, and how there could be more activity in terms of starting the drive in other states in India. As a pan-India exercise, how do you both kind of see this panning out?
Now, I think it's going to, there are two things. One is there is a risk of disenfranchisement. Some workers might feel that, how is my right? For example, the case that Umesh wrote about also, the fact that one person is willing to spend 5,000 rupees and go and come back. So one section, we are polarizing the section, we are actually creating more fragments and fractures among the poor. One set of poor people will do anything to ensure that, Arey bhai, somehow my name should be there, I don't want to be struck down. Another section of the poor is apathy. कि भाई क्या ही हो जाएगा, जाने दो मेरा नाम, उड़ाने दो. Anyway, I am struggling to get my lives and livelihoods in order. What if my name is not there in the voter roll? So
just stepping in there, I had a lot of workers tell me कि हम लोग सिर्फ कागज ही बनवाते रहते हैं. हाँ. पिछले 20 साल से सुन रहे थे कि आधार 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 आधार, और अब कह रहे हैं कि अब आधार ही काम नहीं करेगा. तो their thing was that one of this young guy I met, he was 21 or 22 and had moved to Delhi just a year ago. He said that मैं तो sure हूँ 10 साल के बाद बोलेंगे अब ये वोटर आईडी भी काम नहीं करेगा, आप कुछ और बनवाओ. So yeah, please Rajendran, continue what you're saying.
No, that's actually very true, because some of them, as I was saying, there is this fragmentation and fracturing among the poor. One set is that. The other set, there is a third set also. The third set, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. देखिए वापस वो लोग मांगेंगे वोटर आईडी चल जाएगा, आधार चल जाएगा. So there is that third set who believes that everything would be set right in some time. So we are talking about these broad three segments, and my biggest apprehension is when this happens in Bengal.
Right.
What do we do for them? What do we do for people who do not have these stringent requirements like a residence certificate? And it's very scary to think. And the funny thing is, the 789-page affidavit that the Election Commission has given in the court, I think on page 39, they are saying that 13.8 crore people in Bihar have residence certificate. The population of Bihar is 13.7 crore. So are we saying that the number of residence certificates, according to the Election Commission, the number of residence certificates issued is more than the population of Bihar? How do we deal with these things? So in a way, this entire drive, I feel, is of course, it's exclusionary and all that, but it's also going to create newer forms of corruption. So what are we saying? Also, the biggest documentation drive that the government of India undertook in the last 8-9 years is Aadhaar. Biggest documentation drive. They are saying Aadhaar is needed for everything, and they are linking Aadhaar with ration cards to give rations. Okay,
Almost everything.
Everything, right? So eKYC has become a standard procedure. eKYC is when you have to link your Aadhaar with ration card. Unless you link your Aadhaar with ration card, you're not going to get ration. Now the government has claimed, over the years it's been repeatedly claiming that it's the biggest drive free ration for 80 crore people. Now you're saying that those documents through which you're giving rations to people are not valid at all. So are you saying that all the money that you've spent on food subsidy and Narega, etc., where the entire premise has been on Aadhaar, that is all a waste? On the one hand, you're claiming that is a lifesaver and you've revolutionized the whole system of welfare delivery in the country. On the other hand, another institutional arm of the state is saying that is all useless, we can't trust them. So what signals are we sending to people across the country? Which arm of the government do we believe? Because we are pitting one arm of the state with the other. One arm of the state is saying we've saved so much money due to Aadhaar and other things. Another arm is saying we can't trust Aadhaar and ration card. So this kind of dual signaling is going to confuse a lot of people, and it is confusing to many of us too. What are you saying? I'm reminded of that old song from the film Padosan where they say, ya ghoda bol ya chatur bol, ye kya ghoda chatur. You're saying both. So it's very unclear to me.
To both of you, any final thoughts on what do you think is the way forward? How do you see this panning out? Or what do you think, should be kept in mind while designing policies like this based on your engagements with workers and the survey?
So I think this whole process, it should have been, happen after election or just after this Lok Sabha election. It should not happen in just August or July, because we are going to poll in October, November. So we have no time. This is a sowing time for farmers. So they are engaged in that. So it should have happened, taking at least 1 year or 6 months. So it's too early, and people are finding difficult to go through this process. And there should be, a proper campaign. People should have been aware, that this is how this whole process will go. On documentation front, I think, it's very difficult for people to get these documents.
What such a short notice.
Yeah, and the document is Election Commission is asking. It's very difficult, So I think on this front also government should, give some, some kind of relief that if yes, Aadhaar can work.
Right.
Yeah.
Rajendran, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to draw attention to a survey that the Election Commission of Bihar had done. Okay, so the Election Commission does this survey. It's called the CAP survey, KAP, the knowledge and awareness of the voters. And I will just read out a couple of numbers from a survey that the Election Commission itself did after the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, from what is the status in Bihar. And according to the CAP survey done by this Election Commission of Bihar, 33% of the voters were illiterate and 22.2% had only received primary education. So we are talking roughly more than half of the state, 55%, are either illiterate or have received only primary education. Now, why are you throwing more than half of your state through this kind of a crisis? That's one. Their own data CAP survey data says that 53% did not read any newspapers or magazines. And what the Election Commission has done now is saying that, oh, we put out this front page ad, which you also said, right? 53% doesn't even read newspapers, and 29.4% did not watch television. Okay. Now, out of the 70% that did watch television, did they actually watch government initiatives or programs? How many of us, when we watch television, when there is a government information, how many of us watch? That is the time when we take a break to see if the rice is cooked or not. So none of these, I think this entire initiative is I think it should not be done on conceptual grounds of citizenship. I think because it transfers the burden from the state to the citizen. Now the burden of proof is on the citizen, and majority of the citizens are poor. Majority of the citizens are scrambling day to day to make their life meet, to run their life. So to ask them to run helter-skelter for documents is actually a cruel joke on the poor. So I think conceptually it's fraught with problems. Number two, even think about the number of trainings. If you look at the actual official circular on how it has to be done, you'll see that there is so many chain of trainings to be done to the BLOs, from the ARO, BLO, everything. The chain is so complicated. How are they expected to do it? Number three is that even if it is done, then the time frame is off. So I'm saying that A, conceptually it's wrong. B, even if you assume for a moment that, okay, it needs to be done, the time frame is wrong. And three is that when you have spent so much money in getting people Aadhaar, in making Aadhaar mandatory for all so many schemes and so many other things, when actually you have a situation where Aadhaar can be used, why are you throwing that out of the way? So you are actually creating a crisis of documentation in the country by doing all this process. So I think this need, and migrant workers that we spoke with, majority of them said that this is a useless thing to do. We don't need this. Why not? जब आधार है तो बाकी सब, आधार हमारे पास पुराना वोटर कार्ड है तो हम क्यों ये सब करें? And they have listened to the people's voices. You're not listening to people at all. So I think that would be the final thing to say.
That's great, summing up, calling it the crisis of documentation. Thank you both of you, Rajendran and Umesh, for joining in. I am much wiser after this conversation, I must say. And I'm glad that, we could have this chat for our listeners. And I am hopeful that, we are able to do this once again, once the entire process gets over. Like Umesh rightly put it, the challenging part has only begun now.
Yes.
So hopefully we are able to reconnect again. Thank you once again, both of you.
Thank you.
It was a lovely chat.
Thank you, both of you. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out our website www.themigrationstory.com for more content. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. The audio editing and sound design is by Akshay Ramuhalli. Stay tuned for more stories on migration.
The Migration Story.